Hello and welcome to another edition of From the Pavilion End. The first test between England and India has finished on the fourth day in Hyderabad, and it has been a soul-crushing defeat for India at the hands of England. If the modern Indian test team had registered its first seismic win at home in Calcutta when Steve Waugh had asked them to follow on, and that was the beginning of the turnaround that India had in their test fortune, then this defeat could be another such seismic loss. And it can have such a seismic impact only in the negative sense for India's test fortunes. Consider this as the unlosable match. India has never lost at home when they have taken a lead of 100, and here they had taken a lead of 190 runs. India had won every session for the first 2 days, that's six sessions in a row, be it batting or bowling. And then they lost every session on day 3 and day 4. So that's again six sessions in a row. But even then, it's very difficult to pinpoint the reasons of where it went wrong. But such catastrophic turn of events has to be traced to all facets of the game: batting, bowling, fielding, captaincy, and planning. Today, we take a look at where it all went wrong for India and what are the portents of the future. So, our podcast is available on Spotify. Just search From the Pavilion End. We are also available on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and on YouTube Podcast. Please show your love by subscribing and following the podcast. And please like the episode and share it with your friends. This horrendous loss of India to England can be mainly attributed to the batting. The batting was up against an English attack, which boasted one quick bowler who did not take a wicket throughout this match, one lead spinner who could barely bowl 36 overs out of the 190 overs that England bowled across the two innings. And all the rest were done by two spinners who had barely 6,000 first class balls between them, and one test match that one of them had played, and Joe Root, the part-time spin of Joe Root. When this concoction of debutants, teenager, and with one test and a part-time of Root can snare 8 wickets in each innings, it asks serious question of the pedigree and also the intent of each Indian batter. Let us look at it in a bit more detail. So this is India's batting in the first innings, and there are 5 batsmen, and all those 5 batsmen were out playing attacking shots. Jaiswal trying to hit Root over his head, Rohit Sharma trying to hit a six, Shubman Gill trying to hit across the line through the mid wicket, and Rahul and Shreyas Iyer were trying to hit a six when completely set. Now look at it when what they did in the second innings. The same set of 5 batsmen, Rohit, Jaiswal, Gill, Rahul, and Shreyas Iyer, all of them were out playing defensive shots. So when the time was there the pitch was better and they should have actually consolidated, they threw away their wickets playing rash shots. And then in the second innings, when they should have actually played with a little more circumspect and a little more caution, their defenses were exposed. So in 2 innings, the 5 Indian batsmen either were reckless in attack or were found wanting in their defense by rookie spinners. Another thing is that whatever India scored across the two innings came at a very, very slow rate, except for Jaiswal, who had a over 100 strike rate in the first innings. But let's look at the top scorers of England across the two innings. Ben Stokes and Ollie Pope, the captain and the vice captain. Stokes scored 70, which is almost twice of anybody else in the first innings. And look at it, he scores it at 80, a strike rate of 80. Pope scores almost 50% of the runs that England scores in the second innings, and he scores it at 70. If you look at India's first innings, three batsmen played more than 100 balls: Rahul, Jadeja, and Akshar Patel. And of them, Rahul has the highest strike rate of 69.9. None of them were actually trying to take the game to England successfully. And even if they were consolidating, they just did not have the strokes to uh, pierce the England fielding. And then there is the two runouts that Ravi Jadeja concocted across the two innings. In the first innings, Ravichandran Ashwin was run out while Jadeja was ball watching and thinking that the ball had gone to a right-handed fielder. Instead, it went to Hartley, who is a left-handed. And so he had to take the ball, turn around, and then throw it at Folks. And Jadeja never ran after seeing that the ball was going to Hartley. And in the second innings, Jadeja ran himself out, trying a very risky run to Stokes. I mean, this is a cardinal sin. And when you are one of the premier all-rounders or claim to be one of the premier all-rounders of the time, and your team is under the cosh, this kind of running between the wickets is absolutely callous. So now let's look at how the Indian batsmen have fared in the last 1 year. So this is basically since Rishabh Pant got injured. This is the performance of Indian batsmen. If I look at focus only on the batsmen, then Rohit Sharma has played all the matches and scored 305 runs for an average of 38. But you take away that 120 that he scored in one innings, and his total runs falls below 200, and with an average of barely 24. Then if you check KS Bharat, the wicketkeeper batsman, now he's a wicketkeeper batsman, but he is replacing Rishabh Pant, who was the top run getter across home and away seasons in the 2 seasons before he got injured. So Bharat plays all 5 matches, bats 8 innings, and even though he scores 170 runs, look at the average, 24.28, not a single 50. And then we come to Shreyas Iyer, who played 4 matches, 6 innings. And Shreyas Iyer is supposed to be a spin basher. He is supposed to be somebody who has a suspect technique against pace, but is supposed to be a wizard and basher of spin bowling. Well, in India, in the last 4 matches, Shreyas Iyer has scored 90 runs at an average of 15. The other Indian batsman, KL Rahul, who has redeemed himself almost with a century in South Africa and scoring 108 runs in this test match, has 146 overall in this period. Take away the 108 from this match alone, and he's left with just 36 runs in 3 innings. So even with those 100 odd runs that he scores in this innings, his average is 29. So, and then we come to Shubman Gill, who flopped tremendously in this match. Shubman Gill has scored 177 runs in 3 tests with 1 century. If you take that century out, in the remaining 4 innings, he has barely scored 50 runs. That's horrendous. Even with all of these 1 innings centuries and all, the best average that we have is Rohit Sharma's 38. if you look at this period, only two batsmen come close to averaging 50, Virat Kohli and Yashasvi Jaiswal. And even they have had two big knocks, which has propped some of their overall performances. Now, coming to this Hyderabad test, where did India lose this match? Was it in the first innings or the second innings? This is what, if we look at India's performance across its history, um, when they have lost a match at home, fielding first, but they have scored more than 600 runs, right, like in this match. And the three matches are very, very instructive. The first match is against Pakistan in Bengaluru in 2005. India scored 449 runs in the first innings and still lost. The third match in there, India scored 608 overall, but out of that, 406 came in the first innings against West Indies in 1975. In between comes this Hyderabad match where they scored 436 in the first innings for an overall total of 638. So it's just only three times that India have lost after scoring 400 in the first innings at home and also scoring over 600 runs in the match. I should point out here that in the first match against Pakistan and the third match against West Indies, the targets that India were chasing were 387 and 400, over 400. So it was not like an easy target. Here, the target was 230 and it should have been chased. So in the second innings, India's target was 230. This is a target that India should have achieved with ease. Here is a target that India have received at home for quite some time. You can see a stretch of 6 wins where they have scored between anything between 203 to 387 runs. And they have come against very, very good opposition: Pakistan, England, Australia, and even West Indies and New Zealand. So the numbers show that India have not been poor chasers at home. So this 230 was not a massive target for them. In fact, only once in the history of India have they lost chasing a target at home which was lower than this 230. And that was this iconic match, Sunny Gavaskar's last test match at Bengaluru, where India were chasing 221 and could only muster 204. But that was a minefield of a pitch. The ball was spitting like anything. And that India got so close to that number, 221, was only because Gavaskar played one of the all-time best fourth innings knock in a losing cause. Today's pitch was nothing like that. Today's bowling was nothing like that. So this 202 is really odd. And let me tell you one more thing. The two matches where India had scored more than 600 runs and still lost at home, the Pakistan match was the last home test where Saurav Ganguly was the captain. And the West Indies match in 1975 was the last match that Mansur Ali Khan Patodi, the captain of that match, actually played. India actually took very sharp and very serious decisions after a loss of that proportion, where at home they were on top for 2 days and then crumbled for every session for the next 2 days. Now let's look at the bowling. There's not much to say on in terms of bowling when you take a 190-run first innings lead in Indian pitches, which is turning from day one, and still end up conceding a lead of over 200 runs for the fourth innings. That's a massive, massive fail in terms of the bowling resources, at least in the third innings. I would say they even missed out a lot of uh, I would say they also missed out in the first innings. So in the first innings, England were 7 wickets down for 155 in the 49th over. And then just within 15 overs, they added another 91 runs for just 3 wickets. And in the second innings, England were down and almost out at 5 for 163 with all the leading batsmen gone in the 37th over. And then the innings stretched till 102 overs as they not only doubled but more than doubled the score to 420 runs. So not only did Indian bowlers stop taking wickets after a point, they just let the tail run away with it. And this 190 run deficit that England overcame in Hyderabad is their third highest overwhelmed for any time for any in their history. And the only other two occasions when they overhauled them for a win was when where England had to follow on against Australia in 1894 and 1981. Ollie Pope scored the highest score in India in the second innings for a visitor. And the only three players who were ahead of him, Brendan McCullum, Andy Flower, and Gary Sobers. McCullum and Flower were playing back to the wall innings, which drew the match for their team. But Sobers actually won it for West Indies, but his team was not behind in the first innings total. Even if you look at our two leading spinners, Ashwin and Jadeja, they collectively conceded 413 runs in Hyderabad. This is the second most in any of the 50 test matches that they have played together. So we are seeing that there is a fuck up all around. And now let's look at some of the other bowling records that India managed to create in this test. Now, the Indian attack is, of course, based on the three spinners that they played, Ashwin, Jadeja, and Akshar. All three are very mean in terms of run leaking, at least in the Indian pitches. So if you look at Akshar, he actually, concedes only 2.38 per over in his career. But in this match, he conceded 3.68 per over. Only once has he conceded more than 3.6 in his entire career, and that was only for 16 overs. This time he bowled 29 overs and just took 3 wickets. Ravi Jadeja is an even, more stingy operator. Ravi Jadeja concedes only 2.46 runs per over. But in this match, he conceded 4.21 in the 52 overs that he bowled. That's a humongous failure on the part of Jadeja's economy. And one could say that his line and length were completely shattered by the innovative stroke play that the English players were playing. And then finally on to Ashwin. Ashwin's economy rate is 2.77 for his career, but in today's this match, he was conceding at 3.88. Look at the numbers that are above it. Only once has he bowled more than 30 overs and conceded more than this run rate, and that was against West Indies in Wankhede in 2013. At a very early stage of his career, he conceded 4.18 per over, and India actually did not win that match. They tied, and it was a draw. Also illustrative here is the two other occasions where he conceded more than 3.6 against England, and those two came in the two losses that India had in 2012 at Eden Gardens and Wankhede. So it was a collective failure from all the three Indian spinners to check the runs. Now, is it only about checking of the runs or taking of the wickets that is at fault? Let's look at the team combination and also how India has gone ahead for most of these home tests. Mohammad Siraj has been part of the two-pronged pace attack at home as India has sought to play five bowlers. Let's look at his bowling in the last year onwards. So again, since Rishabh Pant got injured, India has played four tests against Australia and then two tests against South Africa in South Africa, and then this one test. So in the first match against Australia in last series, Siraj bowled 6 overs in the first innings, 1 over in the second innings. In the second test, he bowled 10 overs in the first innings and did not bowl in the second innings. In the third test, he bowled 6 overs in the first innings and did not bowl in the second innings. He did not play the fourth test. And now in this first test versus England, he bowled 4 overs in the first innings and 7 overs in the second innings. So across these four tests, what we are seeing is that the maximum overs that Siraj has bowled is 11 overs. And in across these four test matches, he has just taken one wicket. That we already know that Siraj is not the best of batsmen. He is a number 11 in a team of all number 11s. So what is the point of playing an additional pace bowler when you are just not playing, making him bowl for more than 10 overs? Can't your other spinners bowl those 10 overs or you can actually make your combination slightly better by either playing a proper spinner like Kuldeep Yadav, who can actually hold the bat better than Siraj, or you can actually go for a batsman like Patidar was the reserve batsman. So Patidar could have played, and we did not even need Siraj for throughout this home tests. India needs to think about these kind of squad selection and the planning that they put into their attack, and they think that what kind of attack is successful. England got all the 20 wickets out by just playing one pace bowler, and that pace bowler didn't even take any wickets. So, what is the point of playing two pace bowlers from Indian side when it is sure that one of them will not bowl more than 10 overs or at max bowl 10 overs? Now, let's look at that planning and the captaincy part. Before this match had started, we had probably expressed our astonishment that the English team were practicing for an India series in Abu Dhabi, playing, between themselves, just training between themselves, not coming to India and trying out the local pitches, the local bowlers, or local competition. But it seems that the English are much, much better prepared than the Indians. And not just in terms of planning on the ground, but also planning ahead of how they have to tackle each and every move from the Indian batsmen and bowlers. In the first innings, when Ben Stokes was repeatedly showing his support for Tom Hartley to open the innings with his left arm spin, and even when he got hit out of the ground by Jaiswal, he still kept him on. That confidence of that first innings paid rich dividends in the second innings. Ben Stokes also ensured that the total that England could reach in the first innings was a very competitive one. And in the second innings, the vice captain, Ollie Pope, he took it upon himself to play one of the all-time best innings that has been played in India. Now, contrasted to the management think tank of the Indian team, that is Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma. Not only have they not been utilizing the team resources to the fullest extent, like I explained the role that Mohammad Siraj has been playing as a bowler in the matches in last year or so, um, contributing zero in terms of both batting and bowling throughout these matches. Um, somebody with a little bit of more innovation would have probably gone for a batsman or a different bowler with a little bit of more batting pedigree. Um, he's also Rohit Sharma himself has also been guilty of letting the opponent off the hook, especially in the second innings. Usually, the first innings, India do quite a lot, and the opponent is has not gone. Usually, the first innings in India are on top, and then after India has finished their batting in the second innings, suddenly the opponent comes and completely turns the game around. This is the second consecutive match that Rohit Sharma, or rather the Indian team, has lost to England, because the last one was being captained by Jasprit Bumrah. So, second consecutive match that Indian team have lost to England after gaining a sizable first innings lead, just because in the second innings everything turned around. And there is a disturbing trend that is coming up in these kind of second innings reversals. Remember, in the South Africa series in 2022, both the second test and the third test were won in the fourth innings by South Africa, when the target was over 200 runs, which was considered a very um, challenging target, and South Africa didn't break a sweat in getting to that number. Even in last year in Mirpur, Bangladesh were 113 for six, and then they ran up to 231, giving a very challenging target to India to chase, which India did. Even when Australia came here in both the tests that Australia lost, the second innings they had a much better performance than they did in the first innings. I mean, that is something to blame on the bowlers, of course, but also the captain, who probably lacked the sharpness and also the acumen to ensure that the pressure is always on the batting team. In fact, in this innings itself, I mean, once Crawley and Duckett started hitting those reverse sweeps, Rohit Sharma didn't even have enough fielder around the batsman to create confusion in his mind. Probably an in-out field could have been placed. And the thing is that it's not a rocket science that this English team will be hitting uh, sweeps and reverse sweeps. It was already known. What was the team doing, planning for this series? What kind of fielding positions were they planning to put together to stop and prevent these kind of reverse sweeping? So this defensive field placings that Rohit Sharma put and that they prepared together with Rahul Dravid was absolutely shambolic. Then there was no innovation in the batting order that they sent in. I mean, in the first innings, they could have easily placed Akshar ahead of Ashwin and Srikar Bharat, given that Akshar has been having a tremendous time with the bat in the test matches at home. And when Jadeja was going was going so well, Akshar and Jadeja could have easily stitched together a very big partnership, keeping Bharat and Ashwin for the later half. But they actually went in exactly like um the team order that was put together, without any kind of thought given to what the probably the situation warranted. In the second innings, they could have easily again pushed Bharat ahead to play maybe a cameo of 30, 40 runs. All the batsmen that came in, they were trying to play normal, general, cricket, which would probably have on any other day, probably should have won this match. But a slight innovation here would have probably thrown some of the plans that the English bowlers had, because they were bowling on reserves. Wood was down to bowling 2 overs or 3 overs at a stretch. Rehan Ahmed was not trusted enough. Leach had a heavily strapped leg. So it was down to Hartley and sometimes Root, Joe Root, who is again a non-regular bowler to give India the challenge, and probably pushing Srikhar Bharat ahead of it, ahead of some of the other names, or even pushing Jasprit Bumrah ahead of the other names and saying go and hit out, score a quick fire 30. Even that would have changed a lot of these calculations. India were just going by rote, exactly, player after player, batter after batter. Because Jadeja was not so well, so they pushed Akshar up ahead, and then had to do with Ashwin and Srikhar Bharat as the final set of batsmen to take India home, and they did a good job. But a slight improvisation on the captain's part could have actually won this match for India. The final thing that I wanted to say is that um, the team selection that they have done, not just the selector, not just this Rohit Sharma and Dravid, but also the selectors, discarding Pujara and Vihari very quickly, not selecting domestic regulars like, let's say, Sarfaraz Khan or Rinku Singh into the 11, and persisting with players who seldom play spin in the Ranji Trophy is a catalog for disaster. They did not plan for any kind of baseball. Just every bowler just came and said that, oh, if they play baseball, I'll take 5 wickets. Another somebody said, this match will be over in 2 days. Another somebody said, oh, this will be, we will show them how baseball cannot succeed in India. But what was the plan? There was no plan, different plan. They were underestimating the English. Rather than underestimating, I'll say that they didn't even think that the baseball or the technique or the plan that the English had actually required any kind of merited any kind of discussion. So that is like do not plan anything. You are planning for your failure. So so that is basically when you fail to plan, then you're planning for failure. So that is what has happened with Rohit Sharma. And I think if you check the other two such occasions that I said, that when a captain lost after India had scored 600 runs, including a 400 plus runs in the first innings, and still lost at home, those were their last test matches at home condition, both for Saurav Ganguly and for Mansur Ali Khan Padodi. For Rohit Sharma, there is no such fear that he will be sacked as a captain, just yet. But this could be his last rodeo as a test captain if he doesn't show a little bit of more improvisation and a little bit of more planning in managing the baseball. In the end, if we analyze this test dispassionately, then we will probably see a batting knock of epic proportions played by Ollie Pope, which is probably the best knock played by a visiting batsman in the shore in the last 50 years. Not only that, the bowling performance and the captaincy of Ben Stokes and Hartley and Root were outstanding. But you can also say that everything that could go wrong for India in the third and fourth day actually went wrong. Pope was given multiple lives. The batting, Ravi Jadeja, who along with Akshar Patel was taking the first innings much beyond England's scope, was terribly unlucky to get two umpires call and also a bat and a pad together hitting the ball. So the third umpire could not adjudicate whether it had hit the bat first. So he was LBW. while on 87 in the first innings, and that actually curtailed the Indian first innings at 436. Also, the second innings, there were a lot of chances that Crawley and Duckett and Pope took, which would probably on another day not work. The thing is that one cannot blame the pitch for this. One cannot blame the curator for this. So going for a more spin-heavy pitch will always backfire. India has to take a long, hard look at the resources at its that it has, whether to play two seam bowlers in these kind of pitches, whether to play Kuldeep Yadav as a spinner and maybe Akshar Patel as a batsman, and also think about how they will manage bazball, because this kind of batting will throughout the series. And if India takes heed of that, they'll probably turn it around and win the series. But otherwise, 2012 could be repeated again. But then again, this was not the biggest upset of the day or the mightiest comeback from a visiting team in Test cricket. West Indies defeated Australia in Australia after almost 27 years, and Gabba, Fortress Gabba, was breached once more after India had won there in 2021. So, and that too also a West Indies C team. At least this England team cannot be faulted for the personnel that they're bringing, even though the selection decidedly looked like uh, giving India a huge advantage. And batsmen will have to play for longer time and actually score bigger scores. And Indian bowlers will have to be a bit more canny, and the captaincy and the fielding has to be more sharp. Otherwise, India could well come up with another bloody nose against these English. It's been a pleasure bringing this episode to you. If you like this episode, please like and share it. Please also subscribe or follow our podcast.